Hello, General Biology. This video is over biodiversity, so let's get to it. Biodiversity is a measure of the variety of species that live in an ecosystem. And so biodiversity is what is responsible for all of the wonderful, amazing things out there in the world of life. We have all of these different fish and sea plants that can live underwater, and they all have different features and characteristics because they're all different species. They have different coloration patterns and different shapes of fins, and all of these things that make organisms different from each other. It's based on their biodiversity. Biodiversity isn't just restricted to animals, it also applies to plants, because we have different types of plants that grow in different ways and do different things and make different fruits or don't reproduce with fruits. And so all of these differences comprise the biodiversity of life. Now, this particular example is the biodiversity of a Sri Lankan environment. So they have different types of birds, and they have different types of flowers, and they have different types of lizards and reptiles and amphibians. And we've got a snake sneaking behind me over here. And some of these are really cute. I mean, those are pretty cute birds. So each ecosystem is going to have its own biodiversity because different species live in different ecosystems. Let's take this prairie, for instance. Now, when we look out at a prairie, we may think, well, that's pretty much just a bunch of grass. But if we look closely, we see, well, there's this yellow flower species. There's this stalk, this brown stalk. There are white flowers here. And yes, there are grasses, but there are all different types of grasses in addition to bushes and shrubs and trees out there. And if we zoomed in, we would then see different caterpillars and worms and crickets and grasshoppers and butterflies and ladybugs. And then we would start seeing rodents, like little mice, and field rats, field mice, and little things crawling around out there. And then that would be things that could be caught by hawks or foxes. So we could find other life out there hiding in those tall grasses. So even though prairies look kind of boring, they actually have quite a bit of biodiversity. Humans, on the other hand, have a tendency to reduce biodiversity. This is some agricultural land. And as you can see, the biodiversity here, the different types of species, is actually very, very low. Sure, there's going to be some insects crawling around these plants, but all of these plants are going to be the same crop. And then, so maybe there's a little bit of biodiversity because there's a tree out there. But this is far, far fewer species than we have in this prairie. Now, why do we want to preserve biodiversity? Well, the more species out there, the more benefits humans have. We can gain resources and benefits from all of the different animals out there. For instance, we use sheep. We shear them for their wool, with which we can make cloth to make clothes. Also, a lot of the medicines that we use are either coming directly from plants and animals or are inspired by the chemicals that we can get from plants and animals, and we figure out how to tweak them and make them ourselves. So the natural world is an excellent source of chemistry and resources that we can use to help improve our lives. And a bigger idea is that the fate and prosperity of humanity is inextricably connected to the health and balance of the natural world. The word inextricable means you can't separate them. So our survivability is connected to the survivability of the world. The oxygen we breathe literally comes from the trees. So if we start disrupting ecosystems and reduce the number of trees, we're going to cause problems for ourselves. Now, how do we then know if biodiversity is being hurt or not? Well, we can measure biodiversity. There's a way to measure it. It's called the Biodiversity Index. And there are different ways to measure it. Different people have different formulas that they use. But one of the most basic formulas is that you count up all the number of species in the area divided by the number of organisms in the area. And different types of ecosystems will have different biodiversity indices. So a tropical rainforest where you're going to find all these different types of plants and moss and algae and vines and trees and bushes and brushes and flowers. You're going to find all these different types of things. In addition to that, you're going to find some exotic species like jaguars and parrots and frogs. And all of those are going to give it a very, very high biodiversity index. Rainforests are up at like 0.7. And the biodiversity index goes from a scale of 0 to 1. So 0.7 is actually pretty high. Whereas other natural ecosystems like the tundra, where part of the year, the earth is frozen, the soil is frozen, so it's really hard for plants to grow there. So fewer plants grow there, which means there's not as many producers, which means there's not as much energy to support the higher trophic levels, so there's fewer consumers. So a tundra has a lower biodiversity, like somewhere around 0.3, but still it's humans that have the most impact for reducing biodiversity, because we will take a field and we will just plant one species in it, and we can have areas of biodiversity where the index is down to 0.01 or 0.02, and that is very, very low. So let's review. Biodiversity is a measure of the variety of species in an ecosystem. It is important to preserve biodiversity because loss of species can lead to ecological disturbances, which disrupt the equilibrium and lead to further loss of species. And two, in general, humans gain resources and other benefits like oxygen to breathe from many other organisms. Biodiversity is measured with the Biodiversity Index, which is the number of species in an area divided by the number of organisms in the area. I hope this helps. Struggle well.